Welcome to the Traditional Way. I'm your host, Brett Shumway. This podcast is brought to you by the Martial Arts Center Network, where you can find all things martial arts related on our social media pages and the main app, available on Apple and Google stores, where you can catch up on all the open circuit sport karate news with Inside Scoop, catch a movie review with Fist, Kicks, and Flicks, or find out what's happening in the Jiu-Jitsu and MMA worlds on the Winner's Circle. Plus now, exclusive content that is only available on the app. On this episode, we are going to take a look at the Youth League and the big event that is held every year in Porec, Croatia. Now, this is a huge event due to the camp that the WKF puts on for the youth athletes every year, which gives the future stars a chance to work with some of the WKF's current and past superstars. This event is generally the biggest youth league event of the year as far as attendance. This year there was 2,700 athletes from 70 countries present, which is down overall from last year, but let's not forget the youth league got rid of all U21 categories. So even though the overall number is down, it's only down by 100 and they got rid of 12 categories. So if you dive into the actual numbers, this event is still growing and is still the largest event that the Youth League does. So let's dive into what these future superstars did in Croatia. A tough minus 47 kilogram semifinals for both Zeneb Belabas and Hana Mastrenko, who both athletes would squeeze past that round to meet up in the final, which was Belabas's first WKF final round. And these two would go at it with Mastrenko pulling out the 9-6 win to top the podium and move into the world number 1 ranking. An all-Ukrainian Final Four in the minus 54 kilogram division, as these girls would put their country's fighting program on display at this event. The final came down to Karina Sachenko and Irina Stepanova, both making their first final in this weight category, but it would be Stepanova that pulls out the 3-1 victory for her first gold within the WKF. Diana Popova fought her butt off on the way to the final in the minus 61 kilogram division, outscoring her opponents 25-2 on her way to meet the world number 1, Selda Mayen. Unfortunately, this fight would not be memorable as they fought to a 0-0 draw, and Mayen was awarded the decision for her third Youth League gold. In the over 61 kilogram division, Anastasia Pergali and Lamija Omanovic both make their first WKF final of their young career, carving up the bracket on their way as Pergali outscored her opponents 36-11 and Omanovic matched with a 17-9 quip. In the final, it was Pergali that would take a 73 victory to top the podium. The boys start out with Ionis Maratis making his first WKF final in his second event in the minus 52 kilogram division, and he was met up by top seed Nuracel Nursait, who went untouched through the bracket into the final. But Maratis would not miss this opportunity as he took the final match 4-1 for his first gold. Two top 10 ranked athletes go at it in the minus 57 kilogram final as Levani Dadeshkaliani and Denis Papocici carve up the bracket, outscoring the competition 21-4 and 22-8 respectively on their way to meet one another. And they would have a defensive battle that would see Popovici take the 1-0 victory for his first gold in his first final. After identical semifinal matches, Ivan Mastrenko and Marko Jorlev meet up in the final in the minus 63 kilogram division, with both athletes winning their prior round by a score of 6-4. And they would go at it in the final with a back-and-forth match that saw Jorlev pull out the 4-3 victory to take home the gold and move him into the world number 1 ranking. Two newcomers to the minus 70 kilogram division fight their way through the bracket to meet up in the final as Dimitro Mitten and Marias Kiss, with Kiss having the tougher time through the bracket, getting by his opponents 14-9 on his way to the final compared to Mitten's 28-13 run. So it was no surprise that Mitten would pull out the 2-0 victory in the final and secure his first gold within the Youth League. The over 70 kilogram division saw a debut with a statement. Tayev Yevin just obliterated this division on the way to the top of the podium so much I can say that I don't know I've seen a more dominant performance like this before. He outscored his opponents 50-5 to stand on top of the podium, including a 10-1 final against a top 5 ranked athlete, Pitar Filipovic, who defeated the world number 1 in the semifinals by an 8-point spread. Well, what a welcome to the WKF, young man, and I can't wait to see if you can back it up at your next event. Now, female kata was dominated by Spain for the cadets, as they made up the entire Final Four. This year's European champion, Candela Garcia, and newcomer, Yuxia Gonzalez, were the two that made it to the final, as Garcia opted for Chatnar Kusonku and Gonzalez ran Paparin. In a close match, it would be Gonzalez that would take it 3-2 to win her first gold in her youth league debut. A battle between two top 5 ranked athletes in the male kata division as Kin Wong and Martin Versamak pair up in the final, with Wong looking for his first youth league gold and Versamak looking to back up his gold from Fujaro to start the year. Wong would run a non-dai, and it would just not match up with Versamak Super Empe, as he would take the final 4-1 and remain perfect thus far in 2026. Well, we've seen this in kata, but this is the first time in kumite, and that is the Zukic twins. Both made it to the final of the minus 48 kilogram division, both taking out their opponents identically in the semifinals 4-1, and each of them knocking out the world number 1 and number 2 on their way to meet up in the final for both their first times doing so. In the end, Nejra took the match 5-3. The minus 53 kilogram division found Daria Konstantinova make her first final of her career, but it would be against the world number 2 Leonor Goncalves, who went untouched on her way to the final, as she outscored the competition 24-0 on her way to that match, and she would remain untouched, winning the final 1-0. A rematch from this year's European Championships in the minus 59 kilogram division, as world number 1 Hanna Sondergaard and world number 3 Morgane Scarfone meet up in the final. Both cruised through the bracket, with Scarfone outscoring her opponents 26-2 and Sondergaard 25-5 on their way to meet up. However, this time it would be Scarfone that upset the world number 1, winning the match 3-1. Anna Manajovic had herself a great day in the minus 66 kilogram division, outscoring her opponents 14-0 on her way to the final. But that's where she met the world number 1 Mariam Bashara, who went 29-1 through the bracket and took the final 2-0 to keep her podium streak alive. She has not missed a podium since becoming a junior, and this is her 12th event overall. Still, matched with her 92.19 win rate, leaves her the most dominant junior kumite athlete in the WKF right now. The over 66 kilogram division had another rematch from the European Championships, as the world number 1 Nikel Koredu meets up against Una Rakovic in the final. Both athletes not being really tested until they met each other. They fought to a 3-3 tie, but Koredu had the sensu advantage and would secure the gold, making up for her loss at the European Championships earlier this year. The boys start out with all the top seeds being taken out in the minus 55 kilogram division, setting up some new faces in the final that would be their first attempt as a junior to top the podium. Athanios Philakos and Maksadbek Umerbekov were those two athletes, who would both put up great performances in the final, but in the end, it was Umerbekov that would take the gold after a 5-3 scored fight. The minus 61 kilogram division had a lot of scoring early, but it all stalled in the semifinals on, where they combined 2 points in the final 4. Now, 2 top 5 athletes would make it to the final. Dmitrio Lyubimov and Christian Tanku would meet up as their first final as a junior, and it wouldn't be a high-scoring affair either, as Lyubimov would be down 2-0, but win after his opponent was disqualified due to committing too many penalties. Vedad Muchik took out the world number 1 in the semifinals of the minus 68 kilogram division, looking like he was going to ride his hot day into the final and take his first gold within WKF. But he would be stalled in the final by Samandar Zokarov, who took the final match 5-2 for his first WKF gold medal. Ali Arnautovic and Savali Ilchuk carved up the minus 76 kilogram bracket, making it to the final with ease. Arnautovic outscored his opponents 27-4 en route, and Ilchuk went untouched into the final, where he would finally surrender some points, but it would not be enough, as he pulled out the 3-2 victory to top the podium at his first attempt in this division. 2 newcomers in the final of the over 76 kilogram division, as Muhammad Akgun and Yaroslav Kanash make their first WKF finals of their career. With both athletes looking for their first gold or silver, you would think that both athletes would have gone for it, but that just didn't happen, as Kanash would take this fight easily 5-0. Emotional ride for Ilana Voratovic in the female kata bracket, as the young Shotokan athlete squeaked by every single match 3-2 on her way to the final, where she would meet up against world number 1 Rita Marquez, who only had 2 judges not go her way leading into that final, but her Super Empe was more than enough to win over her opponent's Gankaku as she took the final 5-0. The male kata final would find 2 top 10 ranked athletes match up as Jose de la Pena and Tariq Cook would pair off, where de la Pena ran Chatanara Kusanku and Cook opted for a non-die, where the judges would favor Cook as he took the match 4 judges to 1. Biggest takeaway for me from this event was the growth of Ukraine's Kumite program. Now, obviously, they've had their standout stars, Anzelika Terluga and Anita Saragina, both sit atop of the all-time rankings in their respective division. But the growth in the youth that was displayed at this event really proves that they are dedicated the time to growing their numbers from the youth up. I mean, at this event, they saw 18 medal matches and won 11 of them, to include 6 golds. Now, some of them were silvers as well, so yes, they lost, but they still took home 4 silvers. This is a big statement for their country's program. If Mariam Bashra is not on your radar as a superstar to watch, you have not been paying attention. Let's start with her record. In 12 events, she's only lost 5 matches, leaving her record at 59-5. And in those matches, she has outscored her opponents 269-78. She has won a cadet world title, making her the only Palestinian to do so, and that's all just by the age of just turning 17 this past June. I cannot wait to see this young athlete has in store when she enters the veteran age category. But we'll have to wait and see what happens next year when she actually does become 18. But I am more intrigued at what she will do at the World Championships this year. She is not only on my watch list for this year's championships, I believe she's the one to beat. Lastly, I got to end with I'm disappointed in the lack of American presence at this event. The U.S. currently has 5 athletes in the top 3 in the world in cadet and junior rankings, and 2 of them in the world number 1. And they are all absent from this event. Listen, I get that the rankings are based on points acquired. However, this is the biggest youth league event of the year. If you're going to have those top rankings, this is the event that you need to go to and prove that you are ranked where you are. Other than the World Championships, this is the event to show that you are the best in the world. I would like to see way more American representation at this event if we are going to be considered a top force to be reckoned with within the WKF. And with that, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of The Traditional Way. Join me on the next episode where we will cover the results from the Series A event from Guadalajara. Until then, continue to support the Martial Arts Inner Network and all of our content. Until next time, guys.